Hi, I'm Dr. Hilary Jones. I'm a GP and medical broadcaster. You may have seen me on breakfast television over the years. And I'm happy to be working in conjunction with Co-op Midcounties to tell people about the importance of protecting ourselves and our loved ones from the potentially harmful effects of too much sunlight. It's really important, and I'm very happy to be able to answer some questions from our Co-op Midcounties membership right now. I wholeheartedly support the Co-op Midcounties campaign to lobby the government to remove VAT from sunscreen. You know, sunscreen is a really important medical product. Currently, it's classified as a cosmetic product, but actually it's much, much more important than that. Sunscreen is a product which prevents the risk of skin cancer in all age groups, in all genders, from all ethnicities, against the risk of skin cancer. And therefore, I think it's really important that we get ministers interested in removing VAT from sunscreen altogether. This is something that most doctors, a wide consensus of doctors and dermatologists, skin specialists and cancer specialists would absolutely get behind and endorse, because medically sunscreen is very important in preventing skin cancer, which is something that we all need to do. Most skin specialists, most dermatologists and cancer specialists would agree that sunscreen should really be reclassified as an essential healthcare product rather than a cosmetic product. There's no doubt that too much sunlight and solar radiation increases your risk of skin cancer. We know that it's an accumulative thing. The more we burn our skin, particularly as children, the greater the risk of developing skin cancer later on in life. So it's really important to remember that this sunburn doesn't just happen on holiday in warmer foreign countries. It can happen right here in the UK, even on cloudy days, if there's enough solar radiation penetrating those clouds. So it's really important that we protect ourselves. Before we start talking about sunscreen, which is really important in protecting our skin against the risk of skin cancer, let's talk about other things that we can do to mitigate the worst effects of too much sunshine. First of all, we can wear protective clothing. We can don a hat, for example. We can wear closely weaved fabrics to cover up most of our bodies. We can stay out of the sun in the hottest part of the day between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. And this is especially important for children. But we should also wear sunscreen on those areas that are exposed to the sun. Our face, the top of our heads, the back of our hands, our feet, for example. It's important to use sunscreen on all of these areas. And what you're looking for is a sunscreen which contains an ingredient which protects you both against UVB and UVA radiation. So when we're looking for the UVB, we're looking at a sunscreen with an SPF, a sun protection factor, of at least 30. And when we look for a UVA, we're looking for the 5-star rating. This is usually found in a circle on the product, and it will have a star rating and a UVA in the circle. And this just tells us that this is in agreement with EU standards. A sunscreen which contains the word SPF means that it contains a sun protection factor, and there'll be a number attached to that. But what does that number mean? If the sunscreen says it's SPF 30, it means that with that sunscreen on, you can stay in the sun 30 times longer without burning than you could if you weren't wearing that sunscreen. So it gives you a good level, a measured level of protection. It's really important when you're using a sunscreen just to check that it hasn't gone past its expiry date. Most things have an expiry date, and sunscreen is no exception. So most sunscreens will have an expiry date which lasts for 2 to 3 years, but just check it to make sure it's still going to be active. The SPF rating on a sunscreen gives you the sun protection factor and the value of it which will be from 2 to 50 plus. And this is what protects you against the UVB radiation in solar energy. So if it's 50 plus, you've got a maximum level of protection. 2 gives you very little. And most people will start their summer holidays using at least an SPF of 30. When it comes to the 5-star rating, that shows you what level of protection you have against UVA radiation. And if it's 5-star, that's the maximum. And no one should be thinking about buying any sunscreen with a UVA star rating of less than 4. My sun safety tips are really pretty straightforward. Stay out of the sun during the hottest part of the day, which is between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. And that's particularly important for children whose skin is thinner and therefore more vulnerable to the sun's potentially harmful rays. Cover up, wear clothing which is tightly woven when the sun is very strong. Think about wearing protective gear such as a wide-brimmed hat, wrap-around sunglasses as well, and of course using sunscreen with a minimum SPF of 30. Children are especially vulnerable to the harmful effects of solar radiation, sunshine. Their skin is thinner, and we know that the risk of solar radiation is an accumulative risk. It increases our chance of getting skin cancer the more experiences of sunburn we have through our lives. So it's important to start with children. Babies under 6 months should never be exposed to direct sunlight, probably even children under 1, to be fair. They should be given clothing which is protective for their bodies, and if they can wear a hat, if they'll tolerate a hat, that's not a bad idea as well. The other thing to do is to keep them out of the sun during the hottest part of the day, keep them in the shade between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. and apply a sunscreen with an SPF of at least 30 on areas which aren't covered by clothing. So I'm talking about the head, the face, the ears, the neck, the hands, the feet. Those areas need to be protected, and of course you need to reapply that sunscreen on a regular basis. I think if we do this, we can reduce the risk of skin cancer in the future to all children, and that's increasingly important as the prevalence of skin cancer grows in the UK. We also know that vitamin D is the sunshine vitamin because it's created by the action of sunlight on skin. Now, since we're restricting the amount of sunlight that a baby is exposed to or a child is exposed to, it's important to make sure they get enough vitamin D, especially during the winter months. And for that, it's recommended that all children under the age of 5 take a daily supplement of vitamin D. It's really important to know how to apply sunscreen and how much to apply. If we don't apply enough, it simply isn't going to work and give you the sun protection factor that it says it'll do on the product. So here are my tips. First of all, you need to apply at least 2 teaspoons on the area that includes your face, your neck, and your arms. 2 teaspoons. If you're applying it to the rest of your body, wearing a swimming costume, we're talking about 2 tablespoons. So it's quite a good amount, and some people will be surprised about this. But the reason it's so important is because if we don't apply enough, it's not going to give us the protection that we can expect. Secondly, we need to reapply it. If it says it's water resistant, for example, even if you're in the sea or in the swimming pool, you still need to reapply it. And finally, I would just like to say that when we think that we're going out in the sun and there's even the remote possibility that we might burn, we need to apply it twice right at the beginning of the exposure to the sun. So 30 minutes is the first application before we go out into the sun, and then just before we go out once more. So 2 applications. It's really important to reapply sunscreen as well. Even if it says it's water resistant, if you go for a swim in the sea or in the lake or in the swimming pool, you need to reapply it, because remember, you'll probably be toweling off, you might be lying in the sand, it gets rubbed off, and you might be putting on clothes. So don't forget to reapply.